Once upon a time there was a girl called Cinderella. She was called Cinderella because every morning and every night she had to clean the cinders from the fireplace. Cinderella lived with her stepmother and two stepsisters. Her stepmother and stepsisters wore pretty dresses made of silk and velvet. Cinderella had no pretty dresses. She had to wear old rags. Cinderella was a thoughtful and kind-hearted girl. Her two stepsisters were mean and nasty, but they believed themselves to be beautiful inside and out. Their mother believed this too, but to her Cinderella was ugly. Cinderella's stepmother was not kind at all. She was always shouting at Cinderella, "Do this. Do that. Faster. Faster. Work. Work. Work." Cinderella's stepsisters were very lazy. "Wash the dishes. Sweep the floor," they would shout at her, and so every day Cinderella was in the kitchen working from morning until night. She wasn't completely alone, though. In the kitchen, she had 6 little mouse friends. They lived in a hole under the floor. They sang squeaky little mouse songs to Cinderella when she was tired or sad. One day an invitation arrived for Cinderella and her two stepsisters. They had been invited to a ball by the king and queen of the country. Their son, the prince, was looking for a wife. He was having trouble finding the right person, and so his parents had decided to invite all the girls in the country to the palace. Cinderella and her stepsisters were delighted to be invited. Cinderella smiled and her sisters jumped up and down with joy. But Cinderella's stepmother could only frown. "I hope you don't think you're going to the ball," she said to Cinderella. "It's no place for a girl like you. I need you here to clean the windows." On the evening of the ball, Cinderella felt sad and lonely when everyone left without her. As Cinderella stood sighing in the kitchen, her 6 little mouse friends appeared. They sang their happiest song to try to cheer her up. "Cinderella, please don't fear, your mousy friends are always near." A tear rolled down Cinderella's cheek. The mice began to think that there was no possible way to cheer her up. But then suddenly, poof! A lady appeared. She was all dressed in white and carrying a magic wand. "Don't worry, Cinderella. I am your fairy godmother and you shall go to the ball." First of all she touched Cinderella with her magic wand. In the blink of an eye, Cinderella's rags had disappeared and instead she was wearing a beautiful gown made of silk. It was the color of the sky on a sunny day. Next, the fairy godmother noticed a large pumpkin on the kitchen worktop. She took it outside and touched it with her magic wand. It grew and grew and grew until it became an elegant carriage. "And now we need some horses," said the fairy godmother. One by one, she touched each of the mice with her magic wand. Suddenly, there were 6 beautiful horses ready to pull the carriage to the palace. "Now you can go to the ball. But be careful, because at midnight the magic spell will end. You will be back in your rags with a pumpkin and 6 mice. Please be home by then." Cinderella looked down at her bare feet. "Oh, I forgot about your shoes. I'll need to use a different spell for them since I'm making them out of thin air. But you'll be able to keep them forever. There you are, a pair of glass slippers." Cinderella was delighted to be out of the house. She had never been in a horse-drawn carriage before. She was very happy to be sharing it with her mouse friends, even though they were now horses and so could not sing to her. At the palace, the prince stepped outside for some fresh air. He saw Cinderella arriving and watched as she spoke quietly to her horses. "Don't worry," she said. "I'll be back before you know it. I won't let you turn back into mice so far away from home." Adorable, the prince thought. What a kind girl this must be, to care so much about her horses. I wonder if she'd agree to dance with me. Cinderella walked up the steps to the palace door and the prince walked in with her. They danced and talked all night. Before she knew it, Cinderella heard the first chimes of midnight from the palace clock. She ran for the door, leaving the prince terribly sad. The prince ran after her and stood on the palace steps trying in vain to see which way she had gone. He noticed something glistening in the moonlight. It was one of Cinderella's glass slippers. The prince had a brainwave. He would use the glass slipper to find her. The prince visited every house in the land to find the girl whose foot would fit in the glass slipper. He was starting to lose all hope when he arrived at Cinderella's house. Cinderella's stepsisters tried to get their feet into the slipper, but it was no use. Their feet were just too big. "Where is your other daughter?" the prince asked Cinderella's stepmother. "Oh, you wouldn't be interested in her," the stepsisters sneered. Just then, Cinderella came out of the kitchen. The prince recognized her immediately, even though she was wearing rags and had bare feet. Of course, the glass slipper fit her perfectly. Cinderella and the prince were delighted to be reunited. They decided to get married. Lots of people came to the wedding, and it was a wonderful day. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters were invited, but they chose not to go. Instead, they stayed at home and sulked, and the prince and Cinderella lived happily ever after.